Welcome to the Mismatch. I'm Chris Vernon, and joining me as he does every week from TheRinger.com is Dave Jacoby. Jacoby!
What just happened? It is now seconds ago was the final buzzer in Oklahoma City, and I'm shocked. I'm floored. I'm absolutely floored.
Everything changes.
Imagine that feeling of being one of those fans that were there. Put your shirt on, walking out of that tunnel, walking down the stairs to leave that arena. Imagine feeling that feeling right now if you're a Thunder fan.
I couldn't care less. With 2:52 left in the game, the Indiana Pacers are watching Shai Gilgeous-Alexander take another free throw and put Oklahoma City up by 9. This is, again, Jacoby, the story of the playoffs where we are coming on to an episode going, I can't believe they just did that. They are down 9 in the finals game. Their first lead of the game was taken with 0.3 seconds left in the game. And so, look, I think I'll say this. I don't want to look. I do feel bad if you were an Oklahoma City fan and you had to witness it. But
no, you don't.
Hey,
lie to the people.
Look, you can have communion with Bucks fans and Cavs fans and Knicks fans because now you're in the club. You have gotten done to you what they have been doing throughout these playoffs, and we think at some point we've seen the last of these what just happened, and yet here we go again. I swear to God, I joked earlier in these playoffs. I said, you remember when they used to always have, after the championship, they would say, and don't forget, subscribe to Sports Illustrated and get the championship DVD. And throughout these playoffs, I've said, bro, if there is a DVD theory, these guys have the most unbelievable DVD ever. Like, and then this happened, and then this happened. You're watching it, you're like, no way. And so now, this is now 4 consecutive fan bases that have been rooting for their team against the Pacers and have been up by a margin that seems totally insurmountable given the circumstances of the night. And then they just steal it away again. They were down 9 with 2:52 on the road in a game where they had turned the ball over 1,000 times and never had the lead. And won.
I don't even know where to start, but I'll say this. Lightning struck once, and then twice, and then 3 times, and then 4 times.
It's unbelievable.
This episode is presented by Intuit Credit Karma. Navigate the world of credit cards with Credit Karma's tailored recommendations. It's suitable for anyone interested in taking control of their financial journey with cutting-edge technology. Start at creditkarma.com to find cards that fit your financial lifestyle. Credit Karma, finding the right card for you. I do want to start here. I thought that the decision to give Andrew Nembhard the keys to the car and say, down the stretch, you're going to be our guy. To say Halliburton doesn't have it tonight. He's getting D'd up. Andrew Nembhard, take us home. And there was 2 minutes left, and he was just working from the top. He's on the left side.
Yep.
He goes between his legs 3 times, and he hits a 3. It was just like, I mean, they treated him like he was like James Harden. There was like, hey, Andrew Nembhard, you just cook. Hallie doesn't have it. And that brought it to 105-108 with 2 minutes left. And that's when I started thinking like, oh, they might do this. Like they might actually do this.
Because it seemed as if down the stretch, I would have to go back and look at the chart, but down the stretch, you think about the Oklahoma City shots that were made, and it is very hard to think about them. You think about the inbounds pass that failed, that was the run out to Jalen Williams. Mm-hmm. You remember the very tough finish by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander under duress going to the rim. Other than that, I mean, I feel like it was all free throw line. Like, it's hard to remember the field goals that they made. There's tons of the field goals you can remember that they missed. But the field goals that they made down the stretch, it just feels like, I mean, I'd have to go back and have to look at it, but I'm just off memory and trying to think about what are the Oklahoma City shots, because for so long in that game, it felt like every time Indiana went through those stretches where they were getting a couple of stops and they would get, like at one point, I think Breen said that's a 6-0 run, which is the biggest Pacers run of the game at that point. And then that became part of a 10-2 run. And then they had another 10-2 a little bit later. But what felt like for the first 3 quarters of the game is every time they would start to get in a range where you and I are texting like, hey, they're kind of hanging around.
I texted you hanging around like 4 times. They're hanging around.
But how, I mean, I swear to God, has anybody ever hit more significant timed threes than Lou Dort did throughout this game? Like every time the lead got to 10, bang, Lou Dort 3, or then it would get to 11, bang, it's back to 14. And Caruso made some huge plays down the stretch. Or I mean,
Caruso played great.
At the beginning of the fourth quarter as well. But it's just one of those games where now it just ended and you're trying to compute all of it. We probably should have taken a little bit of time to go through it, but like
probably.
I mean, I marked down on my notes, they're down 9 with 2:52.
That's crazy.
How? Like they dominated them for 45 minutes of this game. That was like, and 8, even, and then it got to, at one point it got to 4 a little bit earlier in the game. And guess what happened? Dort hit a 3 to push it back up to 7. It was like, that was the story of the game. It was just answer. And then finally it was like this relentlessness of the Pacers, it goes all the way to 48 minutes. Can you hold up for the 48 minutes? And in the second half, started not turning the ball over. In the second half, started knocking down corner threes at a good rate. Obi Toppin who started the game in maybe the most disastrous fashion in NBA Finals history.
Yeah, Obi Toppin's first 5 minutes were just like, oh, you can't play him for the rest of the series. Like,
no.
He might as well like not fly back to Indianapolis. But then he turned it around because he's getting naked threes.
Yes.
Like if you give Obi Toppin, unlike when he was with the Knicks, if you give him open but naked threes, he'll knock them down. And he's proven that throughout the playoffs. And the Thunder gave him naked threes and he knocked them down. He did.
Well, and you thought even like you're thinking about like the plays down the stretch, there was, Nembhard took the, you were talking about the Harden step back. So he knocked down the one. Then he tried it again, but he grazed the front rim. But then Siakam puts it right back.
Siakam got it. Yeah. Siakam puts it right back in. And like, I do want to talk about those Toppin threes because some of the Toppin threes were like, you're down 12 and now you're down 9. It just seemed like they were always kept themselves within distance. They always kept themselves. Oh, they're down. What were they down? The most
14.
14.
Yeah,
and they just bring it back to 9 really quick. And then when you get to the closing minutes, they're down 8, and 8's like, a couple stops, a couple shots. Like they kept themselves in the game. There were very many points because you and I both do this for a living. You're taking your notes. I'm taking my notes. And I'm taking my notes as if the Thunder are going to win. And right around 2 minutes left, I was like, oh, wait a second. Maybe I should look at what Chet shot from the field. Maybe I should look at what J-Dub shot from the field. Wait a second here, because I'm ready to celebrate the Thunder and their defense and Alex Caruso. And then I said to myself, wait a second, let me look a little bit at what these other players that aren't named Shai Gilgeous-Alexander did on the Thunder. And it's not pretty. It's not pretty. Chet Holmgren didn't do anything tonight. Nothing.
No, and it's one of those like, yes, you evaluate now. The way you evaluate people as winners and the way you evaluate people as losers is quite different. And shout out to Richard Jefferson, who went ahead and started to evaluate the losers, talking about maybe the most ill-timed, hey, is it safe to go ahead and kill this guy moment of an NBA Finals broadcast where he's like, you can't have your best player have concert dates. And he's talking about Tyrese Halliburton.
Oh, yeah.
And then,
Tour dates.
and
Yeah.
fast forward, and the guy hits one of the biggest shots in NBA Finals history.
Well, shout out to Richard Jefferson because I love that dude. I spent a lot of time sitting next to that guy. I love that guy. But that Halliburton shot was a bad shot. That's like a 20-foot jump shot. Like, that's not even like mid-range.
No,
it was like a long two. It was a bad shot. And he
in fairness to Richard Jefferson, I thought it was probably safe to go ahead and talk about how Tyrese Halliburton hadn't been good enough. But this is the lesson for broadcasters, for fans, for media, for everyone else. Until it's 48 on the clock, it's too early to say anything bad about
with
the
these Pacers.
It's crazy. Unheard of. Unheard of.
Wild. I mean, first of all, if you have a FanDuel account, I think the Thunder are going to win this series. And I think the odds might have shifted in your favor. So I would put a little penny or two on the Thunder right now because I think the Thunder played better. I think they were the better basketball team. I think they had no answer. I think the Halliburton had no answer for their defense, just as we expected. But man, I thought that having Nembhard be the ball handler and be like the focal point of the offense in the fourth quarter was such a wild thing for Carlisle and the Pacers to do, and it paid off. Yeah, sometimes it paid off because he missed a shot and Siakam put it back. But he also hit a three, and I think that saying it's not going to work with Tyrese as the main guy was really, really smart. It was a really smart adjustment on the fly.
Well, Tyrese Halliburton, his bad game was 14 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, and a game winner. That was the bad game.
It was a bad game, though. He did not play well. He did not play well.
Well, and I know you say they outplayed them, but the Thunder shot a tick under 40% from the field, and the Thunder got outscored by 7 3-pointers. This was the two things we talked about were you're going to have to win the way the Pacers could have a chance against the Thunder, and the way we could be talking about this series for at least 6 games, as we talked about, was you're going to have to win at the 3-point line by a wide margin, which they did. They won that by 21 points tonight. And you're going to have to keep your turnovers low because they score 20-something% of their points off of turnovers. So what if you could just make that 10% of their points? And that's what we talked about. And then they turned it over 20 times in the first half. The fact that they were not getting run out of the building by halftime is a miracle. And they just had not given up an excruciating amount of points. They even showed Rick Carlisle in the locker room saying, look, we have to clean this up. Can't be dribbling in traffic, which, side note, hilarious. They showed the in the locker room speech where Rick Carlisle is telling them, hey, don't dribble in traffic. And you know how they have to do that during the course of the game? Here's what Rick Carlisle said at halftime, right? And so then they cut back to the game and Ben Mathurin turns it over immediately, trying to dribble against someone. And I'm like, hey, I guess Ben wasn't listening.
I wrote it down. He said, you can't dribble into a crowd against this team. You can't throw tight bounce passes against this team. And then Mathurin, of course, turns it over and Caruso steals it.
Right. Immediately.
At the same exact time.
But one of the things that was fascinating about this was at the very beginning of the game, there was a starting lineup change. And one of the things we talked about was, and it's interesting that you talk about Chet and not really noticing Chet tonight in this game and not being impressed with the game that Chet had.
Did he play?
Look, I will say this. I always think that these kind of string beanie type guys need to have the brute force next to them because their calling is not to be the brute strength, right? It reminds me a lot of when we used to watch, and it would get to the playoffs and it would get to these times. And Jaren Jackson Jr. is playing alongside Steven Adams, and then Steven Adams is out of the game. or Steven Adams is hurt, and now you're watching Jaren Jackson Jr., who was in a position that Chet is in now, and now he's playing center, and now he's having to do. It's a different role. It is a different role, and it's a lot to ask. And I thought, especially because you're dealing with Siakam and Turner, and this is not a rebounding murderer's row, I thought that was going to provide a very big advantage for Oklahoma City. And instead, what happened is they tried to match up small tonight, and they got destroyed on the boards. 56-39 for a team that benched their center. 56-39 was the final tally, Jacoby, in this game. And you didn't start Hartenstein. It's interesting to look at in retrospect, because I thought that the Chet Hartenstein front line was going to provide quite the advantage for them. And obviously, Mark Daigneault wanted to try to match up small for small. And, you know,
I have it as 64-47, which is a huge gap with the rebounds. And honestly,
am I looking at the wrong thing?
Yeah. It's refreshed.
I have 56-39. Okay.
I got 64-47. And let me tell you, man.
I mean, it's still 17 spread.
I didn't see Chet getting back down or getting bodied, or like I didn't see that as the problem. Honestly, it was just they couldn't break away. It was a Nembhard three, a Miles Turner bucket, a Siakam just going to the line. Like they just could not get it to 15, 16, 20 points. And I honestly think that Obi Toppin's threes were so insignificant in the exact moments in which he hit them. But in the grand scheme of the game, that's what kept them in the game. It's what kept them in the game.
The other thing is, I mean, for the Pacers to play at this kind of range, this was interesting to watch this game kind of turn into a half-court basketball game. Think about the transition baskets you can really think of, and while we talk about this extreme number of turnovers that the Pacers had, you did not text me one night about pick sixes, because it just was not.
They were all in the first half.
It wasn't, even then, they only scored 9 points off those turnovers in the first half, and there were a million of them.
They had 20 in the first half. They had 4 in the second half. That's the difference between the Knicks and the Pacers, is going into halftime, having a conversation, then having your players execute the details of that conversation. Like, they tightened up in the second half. And, man, like, I can't say enough about Andrew Nembhard. I'm shocked.
They're down 9 with 2:52 left. I mean, teams, this just doesn't happen. And yet it has happened now. For the course of the last month and a half, we've been coming on here going, I can't believe that just happened. And it's always the Pacers that we're talking about.
It is. And that SGA 10-footer, you thought that was going in. I thought that was going in. He had a 10-footer. He was fading away, but he was naked. That he hits that 8 out of 10 times. And it just happened to be one of those times where he missed it in this moment, which makes me break out my pacifier, which I have in my pocket because I have a new baby.
There you go.
And I don't know, Verno.
There you
Say
go.
It, Verno.
The
Say
fetus.
It, Verno.
Did the fetuses do a little fetusing? A little?
They fetused it.
A little?
They fetused it a little bit.
A little?
They fetused it a little bit.
I mean, I will say, did you think they were going to call Kason Wallace for a foul? For the body foul on Siakam, where the ball went out of bounds in the corner? That's what led to that,
not foul.
Right? I mean, that was just contact, and I was like, they're challenging it because he's trying. They're obviously not challenging whether or not it was out of bounds.
That's how you
Siakam.
use the challenge,
yes,
though.
Yes.
Like, if it's 0, there's like whatever 7 seconds left. Like, use the challenge then. That's when you use it. Just burn it. Like, why not? You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
by the way, Mark Daigneault, who's usually great at this as well, burned the challenge on a terrible. Now, it did not cost him greatly because, hey, can we talk about the unbelievable defensive efforts that took place, the Matherin block, the Lou Dort block that at the
Oh my
moment
God.
felt like won the game, that the Neesmith run out and Neesmith goes up, and then the replay of that is even more impressive. I mean, if you are teaching defensive clinics on how to go vertical without fouling, I mean, it was unbelievable.
But that led to an SGA bucket, which puts them up 5. And at that point, I'm like, can't lose this. 2-possession game. Can't lose it. It's impossible. How could you possibly lose this game?
When did Miles Turner bank the 3? That's when I was like, okay, maybe they could do this.
Definitely did not call bank on that.
How about the pump fake, step to the side, and
to
then
the side,
bank?
and it's like, come on, dude. You're a center. You're like a potential defensive player of the year, like 4 or 5 years ago. Like you don't do sidestep threes.
Well, and I know you're sitting there saying, "Hey, I thought the Thunder outplayed them or whatever," but you also on the same look on the other side of your mouth, you just said, "I'm looking up and down and I'm trying to analyze who did it for Oklahoma City," and it's like, it was a lot of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Lou Dort, who's been shooting 30% in these playoffs, turned into Klay Thompson. Now, on the other side, you can say, well, Obi Toppin did too. But, I mean, the Pacers have been the best three-point shooting team of any of the teams in the NBA throughout these playoffs. They have shot 40% as a team. So, yes, 47 is high for tonight, but they have shown to be the best three-point shooting team as a team in these playoffs. And there's a reason why Rick Carlisle's halftime speech included, we're getting a lot of good looks from threes. Trust the process. Keep shooting them. Keep shooting them. And we talked about corner threes, the available shots versus Oklahoma City. This is something that they have been very successful at, and it was something that showed up for them tonight because they shot an insane clip from corner threes, including another appearance by the great Thomas Bryant.
I can't believe this guy. Again, he's only there because Tony Bradley's not available. There are so many fan bases that are like, how come you didn't do this when you were in our uniform?
Oh, I mean, he is giving them good minutes. He is giving them good minutes.
I will say this, though, is I'm looking at you, J-Dub, and I'm looking at you, Chet, and I'm saying, where is it, guys? It's the finals. Like, J-Dub, you're supposed to be the second banana. I saw you against Minnesota those last couple games. You were efficient. You were effective. You brought us across the finish line when SGA couldn't. And I'm looking at those two saying, this man can't do it by himself.
It's one of those weird things, too, because Gilgeous-Alexander, I believe I just read, it's the most points at a finals debut since Iverson. Bro, that's...
game 1 when they beat the Lakers?
That's like 24 years ago. That's a long time.
Step over?
That's a long time ago.
That was in 01?
Yeah, 24 years. So, I mean, that's a long time since somebody's had this many points in a finals debut. But you're right. That was the wonder. What about the second fiddle? Who's the Robin? And is that Robin going to be able to show up in a big way? And on the flip side, it's like, okay, here are the questions that you had about Oklahoma City, if there were any, and let's also be fair. Like, everybody thought this was going to be a mauling. Everybody. I don't care what anybody says now, right? Like, everybody said. I think if I heard one pick, I heard 1,000 people pick Oklahoma City in 5. I saw that story you sent to me today. Jay-Z bet $1 million on it. and I text you back. And I text you back. I said, they will not win in 5. If there's one thing we know, it's that if everybody thinks something's going to happen, then it won't. And And
how many football Sundays do you see the desk and they have the graphic on the bottom and all 5 analysts pick the same team and you're just like, oh, I'm betting the other team now. That's how it feels in this series. I still think the Thunder win this series, and they could win in 5 or 6. But man, we ended the last pod by saying when we go live on Thursday night, I hope we have a competitive basketball game. And man, we got one.
Here's what I say, though. Jacoby, what do they have to do? What do they have to do to make you believe in them? That you just watched them do it again. You just watched them do it again. And here, what
you think they're going to win the series?
And within the first, Malika Andrews, who was promoting tonight's game, leading up to tip-off, said, "Guys, everybody, stay tuned in." Like anybody just tuned in for the pregame show. But make sure, hey, this one is huge. Over 70% of the teams that won game 1 have gone on to win the NBA Finals, so tonight's game is massive. So she said.
Do you think the Pacers win the series?
I think they absolutely could win this series. I think they absolutely
can is different than saying they will. They will not win the series.
Why not? Why not?
I just think that
what about tonight?
Thunder's defense.
The Pacers turned the ball over 20 times in the first half and won the game. You don't think they can? What happened? What happened when the Pacers cleaned it up? What happened after they felt the pressure for half of basketball and then adjusted to it? Dude, is there anything that happened in the second half of that game that made you believe that the Pacers can't compete in this series? Come on. You watched the same thing I did.
Do you know how many times the Thunder turned the ball over tonight?
I would guess. I mean,
6.
come on. That's like near
6.
perfect. That's near perfect.
6. I'm shocked. I'm floored. I mean,
you can't believe the youngest team in the league did that.
Is this your victory lap?
No,
after game 1 of the finals?
No, I'm just asking you. You can't believe it? Come on.
I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. I thought that SGA shot was down. It's a 10-foot fadeaway that I've seen him hit, I don't know, 400 times in the last 3 months. Like, that is such an easy bucket for him, and he just missed it.
Tyrese Halliburton doesn't miss those. Ever.
Well, Halliburton's shot.
Feels like he never misses them. Feels like he never misses them.
And do you know who was there to watch it?
John.
His dad.
Yeah. John Halliburton.
To his dad. Oh my God.
I will say this. Don't you think they'll put Hartenstein back in the starting lineup?
Yes.
I thought that was very strange. Very strange. Bro, you just put up a historic season. A historic season. Truly. They've been amazing. And Kayshawn Wiles played 33 minutes tonight, had 6 points, and was a minus 13. As you installed him in his start. I don't understand the drastic change. It almost was the thing I didn't like about it, and I look, whether they would have won or they would have lost, I still would have felt the same way. To me, when you don't start Hartenstein, to me, you're saying we think that having Hartenstein out there is a bigger disadvantage to us than it is an advantage to us against this team. And that was something, and look, Mark Daigneault knows his team better than me, but that was something that I thought was an advantage for them in the, like, here's how we're willing to, here's how you want to play. Okay, well, if your front line's going to be Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam, my guy's getting every rebound. And my guy is going to set every screen for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and we're going to play off of that.
And they're going to work.
My guy can play off the short roll. And I don't know. I thought it was odd to try to match up with that. And again, the results are the results. They turned them over 20 times, but they didn't convert off of those. And as we mentioned, they got smashed on the boards. And there's no way you can't look at their lineup and what they went out there with and say that's not a massive factor in getting smashed on the boards, because Hartenstein would be the advantage.
played 17 minutes and got 9 rebounds.
Just bizarre.
So one would wonder, maybe if he played longer, and he's 3 for 5 from the field, 9 points, 3 for 3 from the line, whatever. But 9 rebounds in 17 minutes, you get out-rebounded like that, you wonder. Well,
I mean, you were small. You played small.
Yeah. I think Chet only played 23 minutes. So it's like they wanted to play small and play fast, and it worked until the last 3 minutes of the game.
Well, it's always 48. If there's anything we have learned throughout these playoffs, it is always 48 minutes versus the Pacers. See, I don't think the Pacers played well tonight and still came away with the win. I guess you could say Oklahoma City can play a lot better than they did tonight. We know when we have seen that. But I was more surprised that Oklahoma City, in their home arena, where they have boat raced people, struggled, and they had been off for an extreme amount of time, resting up for this and preparing for this. I was surprised that they did not run out after the Pacers. Like, they felt that pressure and just were throwing the ball all over. People are trying to dribble against them, and it's like, bro, did y'all see any of the tapes of Oklahoma City this entire playoffs? Like, there's a complete graveyard of guys that have attempted to dribble around these guys. Like, that's not the way. And I don't know. I guess I'm more surprised that Oklahoma City didn't run out on them when I thought the Pacers played damn near pitiful in the first half of that game. And it wasn't, what was it, 12? I think it was 12.
At the end of the half?
Yeah. I think it was 12.
I thought that it's one of those things where, like, if you feel like you should be up 20, but you're happy to be up 12, but you really should be up 20. The Pacers did not play well in the first half at all, and the Thunder didn't take advantage. And that's what kills you. They never extended the lead to a margin which felt natural to the way the game was being played. The Pacers played terrible in the first half. I can't name a single Pacer that played, maybe Obi Toppin. Outside of him hitting a couple threes, like, no one played well in the first half. And man, like, when it got down to it, like,
but did anybody play out of their mind? Is there anybody on the Pacers that you went, that won't happen again? Maybe Obi, if you want to say that, but we've seen that before.
But we've seen him do it. Yeah. And he ended up like 5 for 9 from 3. Like, it wasn't like Neesmith. Yeah, he was fine.
Well, he's one of those guys that we joked about earlier in this season, where I told you he's the weirdest. If you give him a bunch of minutes, he gives you a bunch of production guy. It was the night we did the podcast after that crazy Minnesota game where he just went nuclear
like 30,
against the T-Wolves, right? And it was like, this guy, for whatever reason, he's kind of logged in at this amount of minutes that he plays, but every time he plays big minutes, he gives you big production. It's the damnedest thing. And so nobody really played out of their mind on that team.
Oh.
No.
There was a Siakam block on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to keep it 107-110. It seems at the moment, you're like, you still feel like the Thunder are going to win. It's not that big a deal, but that was a huge block. And then SGA missing another shot. Like, I have to say it. He had opportunities as the MVP, as the star, as the future face of the league, whatever you want to say. He had opportunities to win this game and didn't do it. And they will probably win the championship. I don't think this doesn't change my mind about the way the series is going to go.
It does feel very Denver-y in that sense, with the Gordon shot, where we watch that, Gordon hits that game winner, and we're like, what the hell just happened? We just reevaluate everything we just thought about this game. Right? It was the Russell Westbrook throw it over to Aaron Gordon. He makes it. I just like, what just happened. And that's kind of what this one is as well. And Gilgeous-Alexander did rebound from that in a huge way. And they ended up winning that series. All I'm saying is
he's not the problem. He played great. But he had opportunities to win the game and didn't do it. And I honestly feel like that Halliburton shot, when you're defending a player, there's obviously the 3-point line. And then when you get under the 3-point line, you just don't expect somebody to pull up from like just inside the 3-point line. Like, look at SGA. Kirk Goldsberry has this wonderful thing for the Ringer. I'm sure we all saw it on Instagram with all of SGA's buckets at the basket and in mid-range and behind the 3-point line. And the animation, I don't even know how they do it or where they got it. It's fantastic. I fucking love to watch every second of it. But you never see someone pulling up from one step inside the 3-point line. It's just so unnatural of a motion for an offensive player that I felt like Halliburton used that to his advantage. The defender says, all right, now you're inside 3 points. I'm going to give you a little extra space. And he just rised up and fired it and hit like a 21-foot jumper, which you don't see. You just don't see those in the league.
I loved him not taking a timeout.
Yep.
I loved that. The recourse for most coaches in that spot, they get the stop. They get the stop because Gilgeous-Alexander misses his shot. And so it's a live ball right there. There's no dead ball in this situation. And
about
it's
10
like,
left.
Go, and go make this happen, because I think there's a lot of coaches that want to, they love these out of timeouts. Oh, they love, that's their chance to be, that's their chance. They're going to get to draw it up.
It's hubris. It's saying, I'm going to be the guy who's going to win us the game. I'm the one who's watched all the tape and drawn up all these plays.
Brilliance.
I have the fun. I've got it. I've got the idea. But Rick Carlisle's been around.
The
Rick
worst
Carlisle
thing you can do is let that.
My ego and my hubris is not in the way. It is not my hubris is going to win us the game. My ego's not going to win us the game. It's that guy, Tyrese Halliburton. I've seen him do it for the past 2 months, and he's got the ball. I love that.
And I am not going to let that Oklahoma City defense set up.
Nope. I'm not going to let them substitute. I'm not going to let them set up.
No, we're going to be a scrambled mess. We're going to be cross-matching. We're going to be, right? Like, this is all the worst thing I could do, and I can't wait to watch his press conference back to talk about it. But, I mean, I think he knew the ball's going to get in the right guy's hands, and we're gonna win or lose depending upon what happens right here. This guy's got to go make a play, and he did. He did it again. I'll be damned. He did it again. Halliburton, he is on the run of all runs. Seriously, he really is. Dude, he did this to do this.
The offensive rebound against the Cavs and then running back to the 3-point line and hitting that shot to get the ball and drive against the Knicks and then turn your back to the basket, look at the opposite shot clock and then turn around and hit a 3 that bounces up out of the frame of the television and in, and then hit, like, literally, I think it's like the first 21-foot jumper that anyone's taken this entire season. And to hit that, to leave 0.3 left. And I heard Mike Breen be like, there's plenty of time for OKC to take a shot. No, there's not, Mr. Breen. There'll be no bangs. There'll be no double bangs. There'll be nothing. 0.3, it's happened once. And that was Derek Fisher. That's the only time it's ever happened. It ain't happening.
No. And look, I will say that as that whole thing was unfolding at the end of the game, that felt very odd for them to be talking like this game isn't, to be like, I don't know. It was very strange. It felt like the Halliburton thing was so dramatic, and yet we were focused on, hey, this ain't over yet. And it was like, wait,
this ain't over. It's because they're in the building. When you're in the building,
I guess,
on the road, like, it's like when you're in the building with that home crowd and you're surrounded by the energy of 20,000 Oklahomans willing this team to victory, you can't help but mention that there's still a chance. There's no chance. But a couple plays I want to mention. There was a Nesmith 3 to make it 102-108. It's 99-108 with 2:30 left. That game is over. 2:30 left. You're talking about 5 possessions apiece. Like, it's like there's 2:30 left. Like, you can get 4 or 5 possessions. You're up by 9, and Nesmith hit a 3. And I'm just saying to myself, like, man, like 6-point game, 102, 108. You just never know. Like these Pacers make you feel like the miraculous is possible, and they've had miracle after miracle after miracle.
They were losing the entire game, Jacoby. Literally the entire game. Their lead was taken with 0.3 left. I mean, it's unfathomable to be losing a game for 47 minutes and 59.7 seconds. 47 minutes 47 minutes 59.3 seconds. That's how long they were losing that game.
Just 2 minutes left in the game, and basically the Pacers were like, Halliburton can't have the ball. Let's just give it to Nembhard.
Yep.
And he's the one who brought them home. It's shocking.
Dude, the finish through contact on Caruso is something that you just don't. There was a lot of we're physical too moments in this game. Whether it was the Ben Mathurin block, whether it was the finishing through the contact, whether it was Siakam grabbing a ball off the rim after Nembhard, a bunch of offensive rebounds down the stretch. And it was like, look, the dirty work guys for Oklahoma City were doing dirty work. Lou Dort in the first half, Caruso in the second half. I mean, it just felt like those 50-50 balls.
Caruso played great.
How many extra possessions were those guys creating for them? And obviously, we've already chronicled the Dort threes, which were tremendous. But it was, I don't know. Look, we did our show last week, and we said, or I guess on Monday, and I said, we're trying to figure out how we can have a game 6 in Indiana. And I know that you think the Thunder will still win this series. They will still be favored to win this series. Well, they'll still be favored to win this series. They were the 6th most favored team in the history of the finals betting odds. So they will still be a prohibitive favorite to win. But I promise you this, we're going to be talking about a game 6 that was played in Indiana. That's what tonight was. Tonight was, we are going to be talking about a game 6 because they're not losing 4 straight. And now, as we've always talked about, you're in the position where you're Indiana. You've got to go 3-3 versus them in 6 games. And that feels a lot more doable than winning going 4-2 against that team, right? Can you split against them? If I'm saying it's now plausible that we could be talking about Indiana because they were able to get this one, it becomes realistic.
Much like me looking into this camera and talking into this microphone and saying Julius Randle will disappoint you in the playoffs, perhaps the Oklahoma City Thunder are too young and inexperienced to win it all. Perhaps it's just going to take a little bit longer than you think for your take to fully vest.
I kept telling you that
because Julius Randle did disappoint.
The Larry O'Brien trophy had not been hoisted yet. But I also, in fairness, we did the Monday episode, and it was very tough to read all the finals previews. It was tough to read those because it was like, oh no. I mean, it was daunting. But I guess here's the deal. It is the hardest thing for us to do is to get out of our head the season in total, right? That post January 1st, this Pacers team has been the second best team in the NBA to only the Oklahoma City Thunder. We are treating them like a 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. but they have played like the second best team in the NBA. And then they have done literally nothing wrong in these entire playoffs. It's truly just their fault for starting the season with a losing record until January 1st. Because if we could just say the season started on January 1st and we could just, do the mind zap thing and just say, okay, 2024 never happened. Then we would think about this also differently. Their record would be the second best record in the NBA. Their performance would be the second best performance in the NBA. And they have only lost 4 playoff games, including knocking off Giannis, knocking off a 64-win Cleveland team that had home court advantage, and knocking off the New York Knicks. Like, that's happened. And I don't know. It's here we are again. We're going to do this all the way to the damn end. It's going to be, this is the most unlikely, craziest thing that's ever happened. Honestly.
But a couple of things. If you were to say to me before the game started, the Thunder are, because what did everybody say? Like, it was so reductive, the discourse about the finals before the finals, because we had 4 days to talk about it. It always boiled down to pace and turnovers and transition baskets. And if you were to say to me, the Thunder are going to turn the ball over 6 times, not in the first quarter, not in the first half, in the entire fucking game, they're going to turn the ball over 6 times and lose. I wouldn't understand it. This doesn't make logical sense. But when something doesn't make sense for so long, it's actually you have to look at yourself. The Pacers have been making miracles happen series after series after series. We have to just accept it as logical fact.
So that's why I'm so confused as to why you came out of this game and you thought,
pick the Pacers.
Still going to win.
Pick the Pacers. Pick the Pacers.
This is not about picking the Pacers. Look, you know where I stand. I'm literally the only human being on earth that did not believe in Oklahoma City being able to do this. And this has gone tragically wrong for me. So I've picked every. I mean, not tonight. Not tonight. Look, Oklahoma City just took 16 more shots than them. They took 16 more shots than them in this game.
Wait,
and
really?
Lost. Yes. 98 field goal attempts to 82. And that's while losing the rebounding in a dramatic fashion. Figure that out.
Then what happened?
The turnovers.
It's not even threes.
The turnovers. They turned it over 24 times, Jacoby. Those are lost possessions. Those are lost possessions. They took 16 more shots than them tonight and lost. What happens when that evens out? What happens when the Pacers don't turn it over a million times? I mean, unless you want to tell me, the Pacers are going to turn it over. What makes you think the Pacers aren't going to turn it over 24 times again? Like, that was crazy. That was extreme. They turned it over 4 times in the second half, right? They felt it. They felt the pressure. They stopped doing dumb shit. They stopped having the wrong guys dribble into traffic. They stopped having the wrong guys trying to throw cross-court passes. I mean, Obi Toppin threw the ball everywhere for 5 straight minutes.
The first 5 minutes were throwing.
And credit to Rick Carlisle. That's a veteran coach that's been around a long time, that stuck with this guy and reaped the benefits. They don't win the game without sticking with this guy.
They do not win the game because, again, it's those threes that take you from down 11 to down 8 that don't seem that significant in the moment. But man, when you win the game like this, like it was just, I texted you at least 4 times hanging around. They were just hanging. They wouldn't let it get to 17-18. They wouldn't let it get to a point where it seemed an insurmountable lead. They just kept it within arm's distance the entire game. And one thing I do want to say about this game, I really enjoyed.
There's going to be a whole community of these people, Jacoby. When we started the show, I told you, there's Bucks fans, there's Cavs fans, there's Knicks fans, and now there's Thunders fan, and they can all get on a conference call with each other and talk about, I can't believe we lost that game. And they will all have the most amazing story ever told of why they can't believe their team lost that game.
I think the difference will be the Thunders fans will be having a parade. The Thunder fans will be having a parade. They will. This game does not change the way I feel about the series.
Okay.
It really doesn't. Why are you making that face?
Because what do they have to do?
I haven't heard you pick the Pacers yet. I haven't heard you pick the Pacers in the series yet.
What do they have to do is what I'm telling you.
I have not heard you pick the Pacers in the series yet.
What do they have to do? You're not going to believe until it's over? Until they do it?
No, I do not. I believe the Thunder are going to win the series.
Okay.
I do.
I'm asking you what the Pacers have to. Oklahoma City needed to get this one because the Pacers played like crap.
They really did. That first half was ugly. Because it's so easy to focus on the last 3 minutes where the Pacers look great, but they looked like trash for the entire first half.
And we're down 12. It was bizarre. I kept telling you, like, I don't know. Do you remember how are they not getting blown out? How are everybody getting blown out? I've watched this happen 1,000 times. That Oklahoma City crowd goes crazy. They're dunking in the transition.
Margin of victory everywhere.
Alex Caruso is beating his chest, and Lou Dort's knocking down threes. And it's like it, as you said, every time it got to 12, it got to 9, and every time it got to 14, it got to 9.
When you think about hold on, Verno. When you think about those Thunder wins and those Thunder rallies and those Thunder things where everyone's playing well, J-Dub and Chet are involved in that. And tonight, can you think of the two makes that Chet had? Because I can't. I think he had a dunk. He had one dunk.
Yeah. I think he had a dunk.
But like he had 2 made field goals. J-Dub barely. Just like you need other guys to contribute.
I mean, they are young.
Jalen Williams is 2 for. You mentioned they're young again. Jalen Williams played 36.5 minutes. He was 6 for 19, 1 for 4 from 3. You just need to be better.
They are young. You know, first go round. It's the finals. It's the finals. All right. Before we get out of here, I've got to ask you. We do a whole damn show Monday.
Oh my God.
Talking about how we wouldn't fire Thibs.
Why would you fire Thibs? You just went to the conference finals. You're one of the 4 teams still playing basketball in June. Why would you ever fire the head coach?
You know what I lament? It really is just going to be like, and I'm glad Rick Carlisle won tonight because he's not the player's friend. He like Rick Carlisle and like Eric Spoelstra and. I mean, God, we lost Pop, so as a head coach in the NBA, I guess Kerr certainly is not player's friend necessarily, but I mean,
he's a player-friendly fella.
He is a player-friendly coach, but don't tell Jonathan Kuminga. I just think that Thibs feels like part of Last of Dying Breed, where it's like, I'm the coach, you're the player, I call the shots. And you know what I'm saying? And now I do wonder if we're going to look up and those kind of guys are just not the head coaches anymore. It's going to be young guys that all pulled the same rope as the front office that was hired, that are very open to analytics. And you know what I'm saying? Like that's the NBA now. I mean, that is honestly, that's the NFL now. I mean, like, and the guys they hire, right? It's the new up and coming guy that's very open to analytics and is very open to this. And I like the old school guys still being good and having relevance and being good teachers and being no bullshit and not caring if the guy on your roster gets paid $35 million, I'll still bench him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like that. And I I don't know. That's part of why I was so sad to see the Thibs news, besides the fact that it's like, I don't know, this feeling that I guess you create your own monster in some ways, where it's like, here, I just had this success and now I'm expected to do more. And when I don't do more, now everything turns into, did we not win in the end because of the coach, or do we not win in the end because of the front office? And then the front office says, hey, we had good enough players. The coach effed it up. And the coach said, what? If we had good enough players, I wouldn't have to play 7 guys, right? And then the GM's like, well, you should have played more than 7 guys. I just hate it all. It was a great season. They went to the last 4 teams and they got beat by this same Pacers team that very well may leave all manner of coaches and players in its wake. Sucks.
I'm shocked that they fired Thibs. It's been the best Knicks season in 25 years. They beat the Celtics in a playoff series. A lot of people, don't forget, picked the Celtics to win the championship. And the Knicks beat them. A healthy Celtics went up 3-1 on the healthy Celtics and beat the Celtics in a playoff series. That is success.
Yeah.
That is success. That's a successful season. So who are you going to bring in that's going to be better? And here's what I think it is. I think it's important for people in our business to understand what we don't understand. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes with NBA teams and the relationships between coaches and players. We just don't know. I think with football, you can kind of look at a coach and you look at play calling and decisions that are made, and you can sort of critique what happens on the field and directly attribute it to the coach. But in the NBA, so much happens that we don't know about, that my only theory is what happened here is in the exit interviews, star players said negative things about Tom Thibodeau. And ownership or Leon Rose or whoever decided to side with the players. That's my theory. I don't know anything from the inside, but that's my theory. And I think that sometimes you want your kids to have a tough teacher. Sometimes you want your kids to have a hard teacher. And I feel like Thibs is a tough coach to play for. And maybe he's not your favorite guy. Maybe you don't have dinner every night, but you're winning basketball games. What else do you want? Why would you fire the guy when you just beat the Celtics in a 7-game series? Why would you fire the guy that brought you to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years? Why is he fired? Who are you going to bring in? And then I get these reports. I'm looking on Instagram. It's like they're interested in Jason Kidd and Ime Udoka. I'm like, they're coaches for other teams.
There's very few franchises that will stand by the coaches over the players. And in fact, that is what's gone. It used to be that they would say, that's the head coach, right? Like once upon a time, Pat Riley
he's the authority
said,
he's the authority figure.
No. Pat Riley stood by a young Eric Spoelstra. Because you better believe LeBron and the boys wanted a different coach.
Oh, do you remember when LeBron bumped him on the way after that timeout? Remember that bump? Little shoulder bump?
Jimmy Butler, you could have very well gotten rid of Eric Spoelstra when him and Eric Spoelstra got into it, a couple of years ago. And there's very few of those, right? You feel like Steve Kerr would be stood by. I mean, I don't know if he wouldn't be stood by over Steph Curry, though. I mean, so maybe clearly Popovich was stood by year after year, even though Kawhi Leonard won a title in Toronto, and that didn't, you're right, that didn't end up wavering. And so it's interesting now, to your point, I don't know how many organizations would stand by their coach and just say, this is our coach and you're a part of our organization. You're the player, right? We hire the coaches. Because now the players do have an extreme amount of power, and if they are uncomfortable, I got it. I understand the way it works, but I mean, it used to be, and you can argue whether that's better or worse, that the employees didn't get to pick their boss. You know what I mean? I don't know if it makes it better or worse.
I'll take the other side of that for a second. Because when Mike Malone was relieved of his head coach duties at the Nuggets, right? there were reports after that. They're basically like, to paraphrase all these, well-reported reports, the vibes were bad. Like, everybody hated each other. It wasn't a good time around the team. And I understand that, but I didn't get that from the Knicks. And now it's Rick Brunson is a problem being there. Okay. And the exit interviews, people had things to say about Tom Thibodeau. Who said what? Who on that roster, besides Jalen Brunson, would I say, oh, Mikal Bridges doesn't like Tom Thibodeau, we got to get rid of him. Oh, Karl Anthony Towns doesn't like Tom Thibodeau, we got to get rid of him. Right. And who are they going to bring in that's going to be an improvement? Who are they going to bring in?
I got to be honest with you. Right after the Knicks lost to the Pacers, by far, New York-wise, like when I would see like the clips from New York radio or I would read the stuff, by far, the most criticism was Towns. Wasn't even close. That felt like the focus of the ire. It was like, we can't have Brunson and this guy. This guy can't play. I mean, it was podcasts, it was radio shows, it was like, and then 2 days later, so I was like just under the impression, okay, everybody's decided, like, if we're doing blame game, why did this end the way it did? It felt like the focus of much of the ire was about Towns and like, hey, we've got Brunson already. We can't have this kind of defensive liability where they're as our two best players. And so we need to figure out, what is our solution for either getting the best out of a different version of Towns or moving on from Towns. But it just felt like Towns was the conversation after they lost to Indiana. And then it was like, oh, actually it's Thibs' fault. I was like, oh, okay. I thought everybody had already decided.
I said on this show on Monday, like, you can't revamp the roster. You're not going to trade Karl Anthony Towns for Kevin Durant. That's not going to change anything. You're not going to bring in Ime Udoka. He's the head coach of the Rockets. Like, I'm getting frustrated even talking about this. This bothers me a lot. As a former player of Tom Thibodeau, and again, I am biased. As a former player of Tom Thibodeau, I just feel like he's not the problem. And I think that tonight's game is a very good demonstration between the difference between the Pacers and the Knicks. The Pacers turned the ball over 20 times in the first half. They go into the locker room, and you know what the coach says? Stop turning the ball over. And then the Knicks go into halftime after getting beaten transition, 10, 12 times in the first half. And the coach says, get back on defense. And they just don't make the adjustment. The Pacers made the necessary adjustment tonight to win the game. Yeah. They played poorly in the first half, and they made adjustments in the second half, whether it's coaching or execution of the players, who knows? But it's a bit of both, and I thought they did a really good job of saying, here's what we did wrong in the first half. Here's what they're trying to do to us defensively. Let's make adjustments. Let's change our behavior in the second half, and they did so. And the Knicks did.
Yeah. Sorry, buddy. It's going to be weird seeing a different guy on that sidelines. It is. The Van Gundy thing would be fun. It would be
unless
fun.
It's Jeff Van Gundy. Unless it's Jeff Van Gundy.
That would be fun.
No.
There's
no chance. There's no chance. That's like your buddy that like breaks up with his high school girlfriend and gets married to somebody else. Then like his second marriage is to his high school girlfriend. That'd be the Jeff Van Gundy hiring. That's what it would be. It'd be like, all along, it was you, JVG. All along, it was you.
Yep.
All along.
Well, Jacoby, we've gotten very lucky with this NBA Finals because now it has turned out to be extremely interesting. We said on our Monday show, the worst thing that could happen would be what has happened to other teams, and that is like a mauling in game one, where they just got fed to the Lions and they lost by 1 million. But for tonight, you can swaddle your Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams. You can give them their baby bottles, and they can get a good night's sleep and get ready for game 2. Swaddle them. Thank you to our executive producer, Jessie, as always. Thanks to our video producer, Tucker and Jacoby. I'll talk to you on Monday.
Must be 21 and over and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and over and present in D.C. Got a gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.